If God's way to marriage, if God's way to marriage is the best way, tell me why. In Ephesians chapter 5, in verse 22, you have the verses that deal with wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. The husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. And it goes on to say, well, here's my point. My point is this. Not only in sports do we have guidelines and boundaries, but in your car, you have what's called an owner's manual. And that owner's manual tells you how to address a problem that your car might be facing. So you know a little bit about cars. So you know a little bit about mechanics. So you know a little bit about motors. And you have a problem with something and you say, I know what the owner's manual says, but I don't think so. I think I can fix that. You see, I used to have a 1955 Chevy. A little different these days. A lot different. And so you undertake the task of, because you say, I think I can fix it. Directions? Who needs directions? Who needs an owner's manual? I can figure this out. I went to school, you know. So you undertake the task of fixing the car. Next thing you know, you're walking. Because it just, now you might have, listen to this, you might have actually fixed it. But was it fixed the way the manufacturer designed it to be fixed? Are you getting the best performance out of that vehicle that you can possibly get? Ephesians chapter 5, verses 22 all the way through verse 30 is the most concise, the most informative owner's manual as it relates to marriage. They are instructions. They are your boundaries. They're your guidelines. They are the very thing that puts breath in the room so that you can breathe. And listen to this, husbands, listen carefully. Husbands, hombre, listen up. Do you know that as a Christian husband, you only have one command. That's it. As a Christian man, many, many commands. As a Christian husband, just one. Ladies, wives, mujeres, listen. As a Christian wife, you only have one command. That's it. As a Christian woman, many. As a Christian wife, how many do you have? One. Men? What is it, men? Love your wives. What was that? Come on, man. Come on. Say it like you, like. Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, love your wife. Yeah, love your wife. Oh, love your wife. Oh. Ladies, how many? Who wants to say it? What is it? That was a deep woman voice that I just heard, man. That was a very deep woman voice. Do you know that Christian marriage is not complicated? Do you know that? We make it complicated. Do you know why? Because you add emotion to it. You make it personal. You make it competitive. I ain't losing this argument. You don't tell me what to do. If you remove competition from your relationship and nobody wins and nobody loses, but God gets the glory, marriage is simple. God doesn't give us a whole bunch of commands. You know why? Because we can't do them. Do you know what you're called in the Bible? What are we called? We are God's sheep. Sheep. You're a sheep. I'm a sheep. And what are sheep known for? I wouldn't say stupid. I wouldn't say stupid. I just would say they're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. They're not. Let me ask you this. You ever seen a sheep doing tricks in a circus? You cannot teach a sheep to fetch a stick. They don't know. You've seen horses in circus, dogs. You've seen elephants. You've seen birds. You ever seen a sheep jump through a hoop? Can't do it. Just can't do it. They need the shepherd to survive. You're a sheep. I'm a sheep. We've only been given one instruction. But the reason that we struggle is because, ladies, do you want me to tell you why? For some, not all, but do you want me to tell you why you struggle in submitting to your husband? Do me a favor right now, right where you sit, look over at your husband right now. Make sure it's the right one you're looking at, because it's got a little... Look over at your husband. Just look at him for a second. Keep looking at him. Keep looking at him. And let me, as I ask you this question, keep looking at him and say it out loud. Answer this question. Is he perfect? No. Okay. Case closed. That's why you can't submit to him. Because you are trying to submit to a flawed human being. You are trying to submit to somebody that is sinful. You're eliminating the fact that God told you to submit to him. You're eliminating the scriptures, and you're looking at a man that is filled with all kinds of inconsistencies. He loves God. He's a Christian, but filled with all kinds of problems and inconsistencies. And you're looking at him and going, submit to that? Yeah. Not because he's perfect, but because God said so. If you eat of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, on the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Well, I don't think I have to do that. I don't think I have to fix the car that way. I'm going to do it my own way. Okay, don't submit to your husband. Spiritual death, emotional death, relational death, unity death, economic death. You pick. God's way is always the best way. But why is Ephesians 5? Why is that such a key area? Number one, Ephesians chapter 5 is the best plan for marriage because, number one, Ephesians 5 makes you attractive to your spouse, and it causes your spouse to open up their heart to you. If you, the wife, will look at what God's called you to do, and you will make it your life's mission to obey what God has called you to do, I am convinced that it will make you attractive to your husband. I ain't talking physically. Okay, fine, maybe that as well. But emotionally, spiritually, there will be something that God does in the eyes of your husband to look at you and say, man, you are really attractive to me. It's the work that the Word of God does in the life of a person. Men, if you will just undertake to make it your life's mission to obey what the scriptures call you to do, your wife will look at you and say, you are looking mighty fine. You are being very attractive to me. And when you, the husband, obey what Ephesians 5 talks about, it will open up her heart to you. And you, the wife, when you submit to the will of God for your life as a Christian wife, it will open up the heart of your husband towards you. Let me ask you, wife, listen carefully now. I have a question for you. Wife, what would you say is the number one need of your husband? Food? Somebody tell me, what would you say is the number one need of your husband? Sex?
No, respect.
Respect. Do you know that for the longest time, people have argued that it's sex? But I want to throw this out at you as well, because again, when I make statements like that, every man is different. Every man, just like every woman is different. You can't say every man and every woman, but on an average, I believe that the number one need of a man is to be honored, to be treated with respect. I really do believe that the man looks to be respected and to be given worth. So watch now, wives, I'm talking to you now. The man to whom you're married, if he's like the average type of individual, he will be drawn to the place, he will be drawn to the person that holds him in high esteem. I'm not talking about phony puffing up and lustful things. I'm talking about you, the wife, holding him in high esteem and showing him his worth to you. Because to your husband, words like bravery and courage and daring and fearless, those mean something to him. It's like that soldier that is wearing his Marine dress uniform. And he's got the badges here for sacrifice and whatever badges they get. And you look at that and you go, now that's a woman of honor. You hold them in high esteem. Ladies, there's something in the heart of your husband that he's drawn to that. When you show esteem to your husband, when you show honor to your husband, when you show respect to your husband, when you show submission to your husband, you are opening up his heart. How many of you ladies have ever said, he just don't open up to me? He just won't talk to me. He won't share his inner feelings to me. Some of it, not all of it, because again, everybody's different. But some of it has to do with you disrespecting him. Some of it has to do with you not giving to him or letting him experience the fact that you esteem him, that you honor him. In 1 Peter chapter 3, ladies, I want you to see this. In chapter 3, verses 1, 2, 3, it talks about if you're married to somebody that doesn't know the Lord, then you can win them over by observing your pure and reverent lives. Now watch what it says now. Ladies, listen carefully. Clothe yourselves with beauty from within. Watch now. The unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, and you got to see this, which is so precious to God. Ladies, a gentle and quiet spirit is precious to God. The word gentle means humble and mild. Ladies, you want to see your husband open up to you? You want to see your husband be attracted to you? And I'm not talking again lustfully, sexually. That's all a whole different topic that we're going to get into. But if you want to see that man open his life up to you, look what, again, this is what the Bible is telling you. This is the boundary. This is the guideline. This is the rules by which we play, if I can, with all due respect, and God knows my heart, this is the rules by which we play this game called marriage. We're talking to you, the wife. We're going to talk to the husband, but we're talking to you, the wife. An unfading beauty of a gentle, humble and mild, quiet, and this word quiet means peaceable spirit, which is so precious to God. This means that if you find yourself submissive, quiet, and gentle, that will unlock the key to your husband's heart. Quietness and gentleness, humility, mildness, and peacefulness will reach the heart of your husband in a way that nothing else will. Oh, so preacher, so you just want me to just let my husband walk all over me? You want me to just be quiet and not say anything? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that gentle and quiet is the opposite of rough and loud. That's what I'm saying. There's a difference. Ladies, have you noticed that you can't change your husband? How long have you been trying? Have you noticed that sometimes the louder you are, the more that he backs away from you? Have you ever noticed that the rougher that you treat him, the more that he distances himself from you? Again, listen carefully now. We've been married 39 years, and so this is not something that is a fairy tale idea for me. Everybody's different. I know that. But on an average, a woman that is rough, loud, aggressive, or mean, on an average, is going to push her husband away. Now, there'll be a woman here, there'll be somebody watching that says, yeah, well, he got me this way. Could be. And we're going to talk to the man here in just a moment. But again, though, I asked you this question a while ago. What about you, though? Yeah, well, my husband, no. Forget that. But what about you, though? Are you submissive? Are you quiet? Are you gentle? And here's what I've heard in the past. It's just not my nature. It's just not who I am. I'm from New York. What does that mean? What? I'm a redhead. It's that Latin temper. What? It's sin. It's sin. It doesn't matter where you're from, what color your hair is, or what nationality you are. If you're disobedient to God, we're disobedient to God. Submissive, quiet, gentle. It's the key to your man's heart. Men are drawn to respect. Men are pulled towards that person, that place where somebody is going to recognize them as a man of worth, a person of value. And you can touch your man's heart. You can change his life when you begin to understand that that is all. And again, we're not going to cover every single verse, but between verses 22 down through 33, and of course we know verse 21, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. We know that. But if you, the woman, if you'll find yourself that you are this kind of person, you become attractive to your spouse. And it opens up his heart. Now, you gentlemen, what would you say is the number one need of a woman? Love, yeah, that's everybody. But you can look at it from so many different angles because, again, every woman is different. But on an average, it's the word security. Just want to know you love me. Just want to know you ain't going nowhere. Don't talk about divorce. Don't talk about that. I don't like that. Don't make me feel insecure. Don't tell me that you're doubting whether you made the right decision. Don't tell me that you should have listened to your mother when we were going to get married. Don't tell me that. It makes me feel insecure. Don't look at other women like that. Don't talk to other women like that. That's not a right email. You shouldn't be sending that kind of email to that woman like that. It makes me feel insecure. Security. Security guard. What does a security guard do? Protects. Your wife, she wants to know that you're that security guard for her. And figuratively speaking, you're up when she's asleep. That's a security guard. You're armed spiritually. You're aware. You know what's going on. You see what the need is. You see, this looks out of place. Security guard, this looks out of place. This shouldn't be like this. You're noticing things. She values that. Security in the book of Ephesians, the Bible says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. So doesn't it beg the question? Okay, you husband, if you're going to open up the heart, if you're going to be attractive to your spouse, to your wife, and you're going to touch her heart, then you're going to love her the way that Jesus has loved you. How has Jesus loved you? Let me give you a word. Committed. Do you know that there was a time, and several times in the Bible, where Jesus could have just as easily just backed out and ran when it got tough? He said in John chapter 14, what shall I say? Father, remove me from this hour? No, this is why I have come. In the Garden of Gethsemane, when they came to arrest him, what did Jesus do? He stood between the disciples and the band of evil men that came to arrest him. He could have ran. Later, when Peter chopped the ear off of Malchus, he said, put your sword away. Don't you understand? I could call down legions of angels and be spared from this, but this is why I've come. When times got tough, when times got scary, Jesus stayed and loved you, husband. He was committed to you. He didn't run because times got tough. And the Bible says now, husbands, that's how you love your wife. You want to be attractive to your wife? You want to see her heart open up to you? Show her committed love. Not making her feel insecure. Show her how committed you are even when there's no money, even when there's no job, even when you have a blended family and the ex is this and the ex is that, and you sit your wife down and you go, but honey, it's you and I and Jesus. There's nothing. You never have to worry about me. You never have to worry about whether I'm committed to you or not. You want to see your wife's heart open up to you? Secondly, not only was he committed, but here's what Jesus did. He made the lives of other people better. Whoever he came in contact with, their life was better. And Paul says here in the book of Ephesians, husband, love your wife like that. Is your wife's life better today because she's married to you? What would she say? Not what you would say. What would she say? Better spiritually. Is she closer to Jesus today since the day that you got married to her? Emotionally, physically, spiritually. Not only that, but listen to this, Jesus sacrificed to love you, gentlemen. Do you know that Jesus left the comforts of heaven to come to this sin-saturated earth to show you that he loves you? He got down into the nitty-gritty of life, and he said, this is a mess. I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm going to do something about it. And Paul says, now, this is how I want you to love your wife. Don't look at a mess and complain. Don't look at a mess and run from it. Don't look at a mess and criticize. Look at a mess and try to make it better. Because that's the way that Jesus lived. And lastly, gentlemen, how did Jesus love you? Unconditionally. In the book of Romans chapter 5, the Apostle Paul said, even while you were still a sinner, Jesus loved you. So don't look at your wife and say, unless you change. Jesus don't say that to you. Don't look at your wife and say, if you do this one more time. Jesus doesn't say that to you. No, he says, now, in the same way that I have loved you, that's the way that I want you to love one another. So, number one, there's only two more. We're going to run through this quick. Number one, why is Ephesians chapter 5 the best plan? Number one, because it makes you attractive to your spouse, and it causes them to open up their hearts to you. Number two, why is Ephesians chapter 5 the best plan? Because if you will do what Ephesians chapter 5 says, it will release the potential that is inside of your spouse. Your spouse has the potential to explode spiritually, to explode emotionally in a good way. They have that potential. And you can, by obedience to the Word of God, be a part of that. Gentlemen, in the book of Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 29, here's what it says to you. No man hated his own body, but watch what he does. In the book, in King James it says, but he nourishes it and he cherishes it. So that's what you do. So that's what you are to do with your wife. Nourish and cherish. Do you know that those two words are actually agricultural terms? They have to do with farming. The word nourish means to actually feed something to bring it to maturity. So husband, listen, you can help your wife reach her maximum spiritual, emotional, physical potential if you do this: nourish her. Feed her to maturity. Secondly, cherish her. What does that mean? Keep her warm. We don't live in a place of the world where it freezes a lot. I come from Las Vegas, Nevada, where it does freeze. And there are times back then in the wintertime when we had to wrap pipes or take a tree, some kind of fruit tree. It's going to freeze, whatever, and you cover it to protect it from the weather. And so Peter is saying to you, or Paul is saying to you here in this scripture, nourish and cherish. Feed and keep warm. And if you do those things, you are helping to bring out the potential in her. Now, this is so crucial because it builds one on top of another. Listen carefully. You are making your spouse, you're making yourself attractive to your spouse through obedience to the scriptures. And secondly, through that, now they are releasing the potential, or they are capable of releasing the potential that God has placed in their life. But you are to nourish and cherish this individual. 1 Peter chapter 3 says this: husbands, watch now, be considerate with your wives. Treat them with respect as the weaker partner, and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing hinders your prayers. Husband, listen carefully. You can help to bring your wife to an incredible spiritual level if you will love your wife, as 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7 says, with knowledge. How well do you know your wife? How well do you know her? If I was to ask your wife, how well does your husband know you? What would he say? How well do you know what she likes as far as food? Do you know what she likes to eat? Do you know what size shoes she wears? Do you know what her favorite color is? What kind of music does she like? Who's her best friend? When's her birthday? What was the pastor's name? What time of the day is a good time to talk to her about this particular thing? At nighttime? No, that's not a good time to talk to her about that. No. At that time of the month, don't talk about nothing. I know what makes her cry. I know what would really bless her. I know how I could really put a smile on her face. How well do you know your wife? You see, again, to open up the heart of your wife means you know her and you purpose to do things for her, that potential inside of her is free. But if she feels any kind of insecurity because she doesn't sense your full commitment, there's things that she's holding on to on the inside. There's things that you won't know about her. Maybe she doesn't feel safe. But see, here's what you are to be. Know her, love your wife with knowledge. You're supposed to be like a coach. You've played sports. You've seen sports. A coach, what does a coach do? A coach, a baseball coach, a football, tennis, whatever it is, the coach is observant. The coach has a good motive. The motive is, I want to make you the best that you can be. You got everything inside of you. You got all the tools all packed up inside of there. I'm a coach. I'm going to lovingly help to draw out all of that potential that is inside of you because I know what you got. I know what you can be. You, husband, you're a coach. Secondly, listen, you're a teacher. In order for you as a husband to be a teacher, you got to know what to teach. You got to be teachable. But here in the scriptures in Ephesians chapter 5 says you're supposed to be washing your wife with the water of the word, sharing scriptures with her. Thirdly, sculptor. You know what a sculptor is. A sculptor looks at a rough piece of rock and he goes, there's something beautiful inside there. I see it. I can see it. You're a sculptor. You look at your wife and you go, yeah, she's hard as a rock. Yeah. Okay, but do you know that if you work with that, you can do something? But listen, on the flip side, if you're the wife, then guess what? You got to let him sculptor. You got to. And sometimes the sculptor, all it takes is just a little tiny chisel and a little hammer, and things just fall off. And then sometimes the sculptor's got to break out a 90-pound jackhammer. And sometimes it's like that. And lastly, you know what you are, husband? You're a greenhouse. You know what a greenhouse is? Provides the right atmosphere. Even when it's freezing outside, the greenhouse keeps the temperature just right. So that the plants can grow to their full potential. You're a greenhouse. Again, living in Las Vegas, Nevada, the 4 seasons, you got spring, you got summer, you got fall and winter. Do you know why things grow in the summertime? The atmosphere. Do you know why things dry up and die in the wintertime? It's the atmosphere. One atmosphere is conducive to growth. The other one, it's conducive for things to dry up. So you, husband, listen carefully. Husband, listen. What kind of atmosphere you bring home? When you walk in the front door of your house, does your wife feel a cold, icy blast of winter that she just dries up and is brittle like a dry, crusty old vine? Or does she feel that summer breeze that comes in and there's just this growth that happens? That's who we are. That's what we're supposed to be. Wives, listen to this. You can help your husband grow. You can bring the potential out of your husband. How? 2 words: praise and support. Positive reinforcement. Ephesians chapter 4. Verse 29. You know what you are, ladies? You're a cheerleader. You're supposed to be. When was the last time you led a cheer for your husband? And just praise and support. Now check out what Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 says. You want to win over your husband? You want to seem attractive to him? Ephesians chapter 4, don't let anything unwholesome come out of your mouth, but only that which is profitable for building the other person up. Be careful, ladies. Do you know that there's some people, I don't know you, but sometimes a husband will say to the wife, "Why are you yelling at me?" And the wife will say, "I'm not yelling. It's just how I talk." That's yelling. Do you know that even the tone of voice can close up a heart? And it goes both ways, I know that. But ladies, you can help your husband become that individual. Help him to come closer to being that man that God has called him to be, the potential to be released through your praise and your support. Cheerleaders. Do you know, cheerleaders are fascinating. You ever see, again, like you've heard me say, I ponder these deep things of life. Cheerleaders. You know what cheerleaders do? Cheerleaders stand on the sideline and they say negative things in a very positive way with a smile on their face. They do. They stand on the sideline in a football game and you know what they yell? Defense, defense. Hold that line, hold that line. Now, what they're saying is, would you do something? Would you block somebody? Do you want me to go? You come grab the pom-pom. Let me go out there. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to what I'm saying? But that's not the way they're saying it. They're cheering. And it's a crazy thing, man. You get a bunch of pretty women saying nice things to a guy, he'll do anything. In fact, somebody said one time that a man, he'll slide down a mountain of razor blades to land in a lake of lemon juice just to hear one person say, "You're the man." Well, that is crazy. But there's something about praise and support that is different than what Proverbs chapter 27 says, ladies. Proverbs chapter 27 says that a nagging wife is as annoying as constant dripping. Nagging is a weird thing, isn't it? Check out what the definition is. It's just, have you found it, ladies? Have you found it that nagging doesn't really accomplish what you want it to? Now, again, I know that some will say, well, if nothing will ever get done. There's a way to say negative things in a positive way. instead of nagging. Can I ask you to consider this? Can I ask you to be the person that prays for your husband? That would be the positive reinforcement, that would be something that would be used to bring him praise through prayer, praying for him. And ladies, can I ask you to consider this? Provide partnership for your husband. Do you know that Genesis chapter 2, God said, it's not good for man to be alone? Your husband, you know what he would like for you to do? How about if you went into the man cave with him and just watched a football game with him? You know what that would mean to him? Especially if you brought him food and stuff. Ladies, imagine this for a second. Just think this through for 1 minute. Imagine. It's Saturday morning, and you're both home, not working. You're laying in bed. It's 9 o'clock, 9:30, whatever. And your husband looks over at you and he says, babe, I've been thinking. You've been working hard. And your husband says to you, I got a day planned for you. Really? What? I'm going to take you shopping all day today. I'm going to give you the credit card. And we're going to go to every store in the mall. And we ain't going to buy a thing. We're just going to go look. We're just going to go look. And after we do that, then you know what we're going to do? I'm going to bring you home, and I'm going to put a dinner together for you. In fact, they're going to deliver it around 7 o'clock. And then after dinner, I'm going to take you out to a movie. You pick the movie. Let's go watch a girl love movie. Want to? And then after that, honey, we'll come home. And we'll just go to bed and go to sleep. Guys, you know where she is? She's in heaven. Do you understand what that would do to you, ladies, if your husband talked to you that way? This day is your day, babe. Let's go yard sailing. Let's go hit every yard sale in our neighborhood. Want to? Yeah. Let's just buy a bunch of junk. So imagine if you, the wife, said to your husband, I want to provide some partnership for you. I know that there's a big game coming up this weekend, and so you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking I'll cook you some breakfast in bed on Sunday, and then we'll watch the game together. We'll sit and we'll watch the game together. And then for halftime, I got some plans for you, baby, for halftime. We'll do our own Super Bowl for halftime. And then after that, then there's another game, and I'll tell you what, when the second game starts, I'll go outside and I'll barbecue some steaks, and you just sit, you just watch the game, I'll come and I'll bring it. Do you know where he's in heaven? He's in heaven. You know what those stories are? That's just made up stuff right there, because that ain't gonna happen. But do you understand? It's providing partnership, man. Your husband wants a partner. Come sit in the man cave with me. Secondly, and we're almost done. Secondly, provide partnership for your husband. Ladies, can you remember this, please? Can you just remember, you're not his boss. He don't work for you. And you're not his mom. He ain't your son. He wants a partner. He's looking for somebody that is going to join arms with him. And it's not you own 80% of the company or the marriage and he owns 20%. No, this is 100. We're in this together. We're doing this together. And lastly, can you just allow him the opportunity or share with him the fact, husband, I got your back. The same. You can count on me. And you can count on me. The last thing that I'm going to share with you is this. Number 3, why is Ephesians chapter 5 the best plan? Because Ephesians chapter 5, if you will do this, and we end with this, if you will do this, it will disable the sin nature. It disables the sin nature and keeps the sin nature from destroying your marriage. Because inside of each one of us is a side of us that says, I don't want to do this. This is hard. This is painful, man. I don't want to do it. There's a sinful nature. And do you know, women, all of us have a sinful nature, which means rebellion against God. We're all equal and level there. But in the case of Eve and Adam, it was different. Eve, check this out. Eve is there and has a conversation with the serpent. Her sin, her problem was independence. Adam was right there. How do I know that? Because when she ate the fruit, she gave it to Adam. God was nearby. God walked with them in the cool of the day. Eve, ask Adam what he thinks. Eve, before you do that, get some counsel from God. Nope, I'm good. I've been doing this a long time. I was married before, and I've been alone for a long time, and now I'm married, and he ain't going to tell me what to do. Remember, one of the curses is you're going to want to rule and be an authority. And so what does God do? What does God do? He says, listen, that's a battle that you have of independence. So here's what I'm going to do to help you out. You may not consider it or think of it as a help, but I'm going to put another layer of authority over you, your husband, so that you can get some advice, so that you can seek out some counsel. And again, it goes both ways. Your husband is supposed to be that one that is sacrificing for you and loving you unconditionally. I know that. So Eve, independence, self-reliance. Adam's problem was a little different. Adam was there with Eve, and in chapter 1 of the book of Genesis, God says to Adam, you are to have dominion over everything that crawls on the ground or that lives on this earth. Dominion. You know what that word dominion means? Subjugate with authority. So, Adam, you're there. The serpent is there. The serpent is talking to Eve. God is giving you the command in chapter 1, take authority of the situation. Don't let anything get out of hand. Subjugate it with authority. Don't let this be out of whack here. And it's almost like Adam just kind of folds his arms and is passive, insensitive. Ladies and gentlemen, don't let that happen. Be aware of that. Be aware that there's a side of us as men that sometimes if we abdicate authority, sometimes our wives have to rise up and do it because we're not doing it. And then we get upset because they're taking authority that rightfully belongs to us, that we weren't doing it. And ladies, don't let yourself get to that place where you're independent and you don't recognize who God is in your life and who your husband is. And if you just look at Ephesians chapter 5 through this next week, and you look at this and you go, okay, this is what God's called me to do. This is my baseline. This is my guideline. This is where God's called me to live. And you focus on that, you'll see that this coming week, man, your relationship will be different.